Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Renee. Today we will be making pie crust. We're gonna make vegan pie crust. So what I'm using here is some organic all-purpose flour. This is the one from Azure Standard. I'm gonna make two batches. I'm just using the blender because I want to use the food processor attachment to cut the butter. If you have a blender, or not like a this type of blender, but like a butter cutter blender, a flour blender, you could use that. You could just use KitchenAid, cut the butter by hand, and mix it in a KitchenAid, or just do everything by hand in a bowl. Um, this is just what I choose to do today. So I'm gonna set up the attachment. Um, I'm just giving it a little flour so it doesn't stick too much. I'm going to link in the description the recipe. It's not much change other than from a regular pie crust, except for that I'm using the plant butter. I think it's the Country Crock olive oil plant butter. Um, you can just use regular butter if you want a real butter pie crust. Okay, so what I'm doing is cutting the butter, and this is not the best way to do it. This is just like I said, what I felt like doing this day. What I like to do is make the pie crust in batches and freeze it. I know that for dessert, I'm going to eat apple pie and pear pie and crepes for the next month at least. So this is why I'm doing this. Earlier in the year, I canned apple pie filling and I want to use that up. So now that I have all the butter cut in, I'm going to add in the rest of the flour. I would not recommend you do double batches in a blender of this size. So what I'm doing here is I switched it to the dough hook, and this blender comes with like a blender attachment, dough hook attachment, and a food processor attachment. So this is now the dough hook attachment. And I'm gonna let this spin for a couple minutes or a couple seconds, and I'm gonna finish it off in the bowl. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just um, continuing to shape the dough and get all the bits and like crumbly parts worked in there. And I made um, one batch makes two pie crusts. So I made two batches, so that's four pie crusts. And the pies that I make are mini pies, so one pie crust works is good enough for one pie. So just to guesstimate it, what I'm doing here is shaping the dough into like a flat log, and so that I'm able to evenly divide it into those four pieces. If the dough starts to get soft and sticky, you can just put it back in the refrigerator, like how I'm just working with this one piece right here. You could put the bowl back in the refrigerator, make sure that the butter doesn't start to melt. And what I'm just doing is flat, shaping it into a disc and making it flat, so that once I go and take it out the freezer, it's already in a workable state. Um, the flatter it is, the faster it is to come to room temperature. But you don't really want it at room temperature. You just kind of want it just not hard, but still cold and firm. And then all I do after that is wrap them in plastic wrap. And then I put them in a freezer bag. So this is another day, and this is me making using the first pie crust. So I took one crust, rolled it out pretty thinly, and it's not, the perfect shape. And you can use your pie dish, your pie plate, to guide you in how wide you need to make your circle, which should be like an inch or two um, past the edge of the pie plate, which I don't think I did this here, but it's fine. So the scraps that are left over can be used to make the cover of the pie. So I'm just pinching off the edges. You could use a knife to cut it off. Um, I'm also thinking about freezing it just like this, like as soon as I make the pie crust, because I have several of these pie dishes. And they're like 6 inches, I think, pie plates. And what you could also do is just freeze the pie right into, like, you can make the crust dough, freeze the pie right into, like, the pie shell. What I normally do once I put the pie crust in the pie plate, I'll prick the bottom with a fork. Sometimes I even pre-bake the pie crust in the shell just like this, just for like 10 minutes. And then I put the pie filling, not even 10 minutes, just like until I see that it's starting to cook. And then I put the pie filling in. And then I put the top crust and then bake it for the rest of the time. So this is the apple pie filling that I canned in, I think it was January of this year. It's still the same pie crust that this is the leftover scraps, and I'm just re-rolling it out to make the topping, the top crust. And if there's still pie scraps left after this, I'll just put that back in the freezer in the original Ziploc bag that I have the other pie crusts in. Okay, so last thing you want to do is just put some type of slits. If you're doing this type of pie topping, you could do like a lattice topping as well. Um, but I didn't do that in this example. So what I'm going to do is just cut for, using a butter knife, you could just cut for slits on the top of the crust. And then after that, that's it. I don't brush it with anything. I just bake it just like this. You could do that if you like. And this is what the outcome is. I put a baking tray underneath the pie plate just in case, to prevent for any filling to gush out of the sides.